There's a few things you could be missing out on since 1.4 and Windblume Festival have gone live, and these are the 5 most important tips. Probably one of the most exciting and fun events to be released in Genshin is Peculiar Wonderland trials that mimic the similar gameplay mechanics of a once popular game, Fall Guys. And the best thing about the event that doesn't get mentioned by the tutorial guide or even other online resources is that the timer you're given does not contribute to additional points for stage bonuses, and knowing this, you should feel less stressed in trying to finish one of the mini-games as fast as possible, since there really isn't any reward in doing so unless you count a few of the challenges you need to complete within time limit that can be ignored once you're done with them. And because this is Genshin Impact, where some of the characters get to shine not only in combat but also other activities, you can bet there's going to be some awesome shortcuts for beating these trials. And some of these characters includes Razor, who gives 20% less consumed stamina when sprinting, which is pretty good for several of the trials, and you can even further improve it by using 2 Anemo characters to activate the resonance bonus of this element. But obviously, any character that grants elevation or any sort of traversal advantage is going to be great for beating these trials, and luckily for us, the Geo Traveler is actually very good for nearly every trial we have seen so far, and probably 2 of the cases where he excels at is Stepping Stone Antics, where he can simply cast his elemental skill near the wall of the arena and jump onto the meteorite he generates, and then repeat the same trick 2 more times so you can survive through the whole duration of the trial. And this is great because it's actually one of the requirements for the challenges to be completed, and even better, you can also use a similar strategy during the Barrage Minuet, where you can simply summon one of the meteorites and stand on top of it without needing to jump around if you struggle to complete the challenge without getting hit at all. For the second time in the game's history, we're getting a fully refined weapon as a reward for completing the events. And after taking a good look at it and testing it out, it's very clear this is a bow that's trying to act as a budget version of the Stringless. And while the saying goes, don't look a gift horse in the mouth, there's no stopping us from comparing what we might already have in our arsenal, and it's pretty clear that if you're an owner of Prototype Crescent, even at first refinement level, it simply offers a bit more well-rounded benefits than the new event bow. And the thing that's most lackluster about Windblume mode is the substat, and that's because Elemental Mastery isn't the greatest thing when it's being used in endgame, unless you're specifically stacking on top of characters that depend on Vaporize or Melt combos, and that's pretty much the only use case. And losing out on precious substat from a weapon is not a good thing to have, since critical rate or damage, attack percentage, and even energy recharge are far more valued and bring better results in the long run. Of course, using this bow from early to mid game is going to be wonderful just because of how much more powerful transformative reactions are. Still, this is basically a free weapon you're getting, and even if it's not close in value when compared to previous Festering Desire reward, you can still max it out or at least get to level 80 pretty easily, since we're getting the 1.5 multiplier on experience materials. And if you're wondering who this bow could be used for, then any character from Pyro, Cryo, Hydro, or Anemo that have powerful charge shots or elemental skills and bursts can take advantage of the Elemental Mastery substat, with the only exception being that Anemo doesn't depend on any reactions besides Swirl, but for the other mentioned elements, you definitely want to use Windblume Ode in your Melt or Vaporize team comps. So all in all, even if this isn't the greatest thing we have gotten for free, we still get to see some value out of this weapon by using with the characters that have the most relevant synergy with it, but it's also important not to miss out on the fact that the event provides additional bonus experience boost to level up the weapon with less ores than you would need otherwise. Also, for more quicker news and guides on Genshin, you can follow us on Twitter, link in the description. If it's one thing that's easy to forget, that it would be the food we often neglect in our journeys, and one of the things that can be done after 1.4 update is by visiting few of your local food stalls. And this time around, it seems that miHoYo is finally acknowledging the existence and overabundance of mints we've been gathering for months now, and the 4 new recipes you can reclaim include various dishes you can cook up using the minty material. And there's not much running that needs to be done, as you can purchase the recipes from the Good Hunter in Mondstadt and Wanmin Restaurant in Liyue. Now as for the dishes, the crispy potato shrimp platter is actually very decent and easy to cook, since you can get potatoes and shrimps from few vendors in the cities and villages, while mint and berries are found in copious amounts while exploring the world. Just keep in mind that for minty meat rolls, even if you do have a lot of disposable mint, the chili is an essential material, so don't go off using it all up in your cooking if you like to stay prepared for characters that might require this material. So with all those mints sitting in your backpack, it's high time for you to use them for cooking, unless of course you've already managed to burn through all of them when using the parametric transformer. With 1.4 update comes the permanent edition of Hangouts with some of the characters in the game, and while it is fun to relive these memories once or twice, it can get a little annoying after you keep repeating the same few dialogue options. And if you still didn't know already, you don't actually need to start the whole Hangouts from the beginning, and instead, select one of the choices in the path and then begin again from what is the remainder of the Hangout. It's a pretty simple thing that seems to not have been emphasized by the game, and there has been many reports from the players coming in that they did not know they could do this. Now, the only thing that remains for you to do is to memorize your dialogue option choices if you want to unlock all the outcomes. There seems to be some kind of trend with MiHoYo fixing and making Geo better and better with each update, and this time around, the most serious businesswoman in Liyue finally got the treatment herself, and 2 of her gameplay issues have been addressed in this update. So if you've been playing with her for a while and have noticed that her charge attack sometimes produces lag, and you have trouble moving afterwards, or the fact that her burst homing missiles would fail to take effect, then you should be happy to know these issues should be resolved as of making this video. And it really makes you wonder what took so long to get these changes into effect, as it could have made some players dislike the playstyle because of the problematic bugs. But to quickly summarize, the Peculiar Wonderland contains some interesting trials that can be overcome by using various characters with advantageous traversal talents, but even without minding them, you can easily use the Geo Traveler and complete several of the challenges you could be struggling with by utilizing his Meteorite Elemental skill. And as for the biggest reward of this event, the Windblume Ode isn't going to be the most game-changing weapon for you, and it's definitely lackluster compared to Festering Desire's capabilities, but since this is a free weapon and you can max it out, not to mention do it with less ores than usual, this can be a good throwaway weapon for any of your bow users who are lacking weapon with high base attack. Of course, what kind of an update it would be if there was no new recipes added, and this time around, MiHoYo made sure to burn through all of your stockpiled mints as fast as possible by adding many recipes that utilize this ingredient. Finally, for those of you who are busy hanging out with your favorite characters, don't forget you don't have to replay the whole session, and instead select one of the branching paths where you can continue from that point onwards. You've probably noticed if you've been playing the game since launch, once you eliminate resin from the equation, there's really no need for too many guides, since you can just learn stuff from trial and error without spending resin like we used to see back in 1.1 update. Still, there are some things that can take maybe a minute or perhaps an hour before you discover something, and this time around, this video was specifically made to address the most confusing or less known things about the update and the event. And even then, sometimes things like the fact you can now use 5 condensed resin instead of 3 might not get noticed by the majority of the player base, because in reality, not everyone reads patch notes and not everyone is engaged with the game by consuming everything there is about it. So hopefully you can find usefulness even in these little things. But if you enjoyed watching this and would like to support the channel, then please consider subscribing by enabling the bell notification on and gently pressing the like button. For more news and guides about 1.4 and upcoming updates, make sure to follow us on Twitter, link in the description. Thank you for watching us, and see you in the next video.